Well, good morning, folks. Hope I've got all of my knobs twisted, buttons pushed, switches flipped, and shit. Hope everybody's having a good day. And I hope I'm not getting any echo or feedback, as it were. Damn, sinus is looking a little swollen this morning. Yeah, well, welcome to North Texas. Yeah, open pagan church on a Sunday morning. Um, Been a very interesting week, to say the least. Yeah. So what are we talking about? We're talking about being pagan. Talking about what it is to be pagan. Well, let's see. Let's see how quick I can do this one. Let's see. Being pagan should be open-minded, um, considerate, honorable. Um, though humans typically tend to be judgmental of other humans, it has always been my philosophy as a pagan minister to be acceptive of others' philosophies and ideas and thoughts. I may not agree. I may not even want somebody necessarily to be in my home or close to or around my daughter with their thoughts and philosophies, but I accept your right to feel that way, just over there. So we have the philosophy of paganism. Well, we know, or hell, I hope we know, that pagan is the belief and the acceptance of multiple deities: masculine, feminine, male, female, god and goddess, blah, 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 blah. Um, and of course, I'm going to put my personal rant right out there, right off the ball. Christian, pagan, no. If we're going to use a term or we're going to use a word to describe a term, let's know the definition. Let's not pull something out of our hat just because it sounds good and change the meaning of it to better fit our own idiosyncrasies, if you will. Christian, monotheism; pagan, polytheism. Right? Nice theory. So, what is being pagan? Well, for those of you that are watching our broadcast and you're not completely sure what your belief is, and when I do these broadcasts, I like to do them 2 or 3 times a year. But one of the things that I always recommend to everyone when you're trying to decide what it is you believe in, when I first started, um, well over 20 some odd years ago now, the questions began back when I was a teenager. It's like, why do I have to follow what this guy standing up on a podium is talking about? And he's getting plumb excited and he's pounding on this book and he's praising you'll go to hell if you don't do as I tell you to. And I never understood that. I didn't understand it then, and I don't necessarily quite understand it now. And so I started going to different churches. I wasn't in my younger years, I wasn't aware, or I don't think I was aware of the word pagan, what it meant. The only thing I'd ever heard people talk about was alternative religions, those who don't believe in God. Well, I later learned that those who don't believe in God is atheist. Alternative religions is anything other than Christianity. Well, what I found is interesting is they were talking about Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, um, and then I come across this word pagan. Thanks to the wonders of the internet, I come across this word pagan, and being the investigative soul that I am, at that time there wasn't Google. I know, a world without Google, right? There wasn't Google back then in 93, 94 when I first got on the internet. Well, I went through books that I could get a hold of, and well, anybody knows me knows my reading comprehension sucks. It takes me 3 days what it takes most people 3 minutes to read, and that's okay. So I didn't find a whole lot on pagan. Well, I got on the internet. One of the first things I typed in, I think I was using either Metacrawler or Yahoo at the time, which was the only things available. Metacrawler was kind of fumblesome, but it worked. So I typed in a single word, pagan, Pagan, and I hit enter. And even in late 93, early 94, I was blown away at the pages that came up just simply from the word pagan. Back then, I was like, wow. Excuse me, gotta blow my nose. So, this was actually pre YouTube. I know, a world without YouTube, a world without Google. What was it like to modern day kids? It's like, what's a rotary phone? But, so I spent several weeks poring over these web pages, reading as best I could, looking at these things called Sabbaths, the different Sabbaths throughout the year. Generally happen every 3 months ish. And I was like, what is being pagan? I knew what it was to be Christian. You disliked everybody that didn't believe in God. Well, that was the outcome. That may not be, that's not the actual structure of Christianity, but that is the outcome. You dislike everybody that doesn't believe in God or thinks differently than you do, right? Thinks different, dresses different, looks different, and all the rest of it. So what is this thing? Well, I'm seeing mostly the only thing I was finding was Wicca, Wiccan, and witchcraft. Well, it's close, but I'm thinking to myself, this can't be all there is to paganism. Something which I now know, spirit guide and councils going, no, no, not quite right, not quite right. That's yeah, okay, pagan, yeah, because that's a definition of believing in the possibility of more than one deity, right? So the core, what it has become to mean, pagan, is anything other than Christianity, right? And if you look it up in all of your dictionaries, you come across that basic definition of anything other than Christianity. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense because then that would mean Jewish or pagan. That would mean Muslims are pagan. That would mean, no, 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 no. That's not what it means at all. And through further research, through further discussion with people I was meeting on the internet in droves, um, I found that it meant polytheism. Okay, so I'm into all of these polys, right? Poly this and poly that and multiple this and multiple that and choices. Holy crap. Pagans have choices. Wow. It's not heaven or hell. It's not black or white. It's not yes or no. It's what do you think? Paganism is what do you think about this? How do you feel about that? What do you believe about this? Paganism challenges your own thought processes. Paganism challenges you to step outside of your wee little cubicle that was built for you as a child, and it puts out to you this great big massive cosmos of possibilities. And I like choices. Choices are good. Some people don't like choices. Some human beings really truly like walking the straight and narrow. They want to be told what to do, how to think, when to think, and whether they're thinking right or wrong. These people either have never been taught to or do not have the capability to think for themselves. And that's a shame because the power of free thinking is really kind of nice. Sometimes it's a little daunting, but it's really nice to be able to do. So, being pagan, like I said, it's being respectful, I hope. Being acceptive, maybe not agreeing, but being acceptive of the rights of other people to believe the way they see fit, to live how they see fit, and to be okay with not understanding how or why other people live. Now, in retrospect, I am a very inquisitive person, so I may ask, why do you live that way? I mean, is it that it's comfortable to you? Is it that that tends to be the only thing that you think is your choice? I mean, I'm inquisitive. Okay, sometimes I'm downright nosy, but there you go. It is what it is. But this question hung in my mind for many years. What is it to be pagan? Well, I got out and I started meeting people, both over the internet, and keep in mind, in the early to mid 90s, we were very limited in what we had as far as chat programs. In 95, we had Yahoo Chat. In 93 and 94, we had local BBSs, bulletin boards, where we could log into that used a standard atypical black and white DOS screen. Um, we had, then it came out with IRC. Okay. IRC was and still is a very popular chat medium, which essentially is put together and run by scripts. It's black and white. You can do all kinds of scripts and pretty colors. And the problem is with IRC, IRC is not very safe for your computer because when you connect to an IRC server, you are connected with an open channel. So people could swim into your computer using scripts, poke around in your computer using command line, and IRC just really wasn't and isn't safe unless you've got all of the things in place to make it safe. I just don't bother with it anymore. We have entirely too many mediums now for chat. I mean, Facebook, for example, you know. So, this thing called the internet really helped. And that prompted my topic for our next broadcast next week, um, which is essentially religion and technology. So that broadcast will be next Sunday here on Open Pagan Church. But as I fumbled through, and the reason I'm kind of going through this story a little bit for you guys is because we have a number of seekers, people with questions. What is it? What is what? What is paganism? So they're wanting to learn. Today, in 2017, being pagan in 2017 is nothing like it was in the 90s, right? And we're not even going to talk about Boston, and we're not even going to talk about England, and we're not even going to talk about all of those countries that crucified and still do, to a degree, non Christian philosophies. The witchcraft trials of Salem, Massachusetts, the witchcraft trials, beheadings, um, hangings, and everything else of the medieval times in England and other countries throughout the planet. So we're not even going to talk about going back that far. I'm talking about going back just since the 90s, right? Just since the 90s, when I started becoming aware of it, consciously aware, it has changed a lot. I mean, you can Google or Metacrawler or Yahoo, whatever search engine you use, just one word, quote, right? Put in the quotation mark, put in pagan, and then close quote, and hit enter, and see how many hits you get with just only the word pagan, not associated with, not alternative advertisement sites. By putting a single word in quotation, that tells the search engine to look for only that word listed on websites. You'd be amazed at things you can find. And one of the other things I found when I started really heavily researching paganism is that it wasn't, and it's not, a subculture. A subculture is a culture that has spanned off or dropped off of something else. Paganism is still the original thought processes of the original religions that were on the planet, all the way back to when people started believing there was something out there better and bigger than themselves. We're talking pre-Egyptian. We're talking pre-standard civilization, all the way back to the hunter-gatherers, when they would draw the circular spirals depending on which society you're talking about. So polytheism, believing in more than one, has gone all the way back since the beginning of mankind. And good morning to everyone that's watching live. Thank you for being here. So again, what we're talking about is being pagan. Well, there's no bylaw to being pagan. There's no tradition to being pagan. Paganism is not a path, and this is something else that we really truly need to remember, especially those of you that are just thinking about pagan philosophy. Right? Listen close, open your head. This is important. All Wiccans, not wicked, Wiccans are pagan, but not all pagans are Wiccan. You have literally hundreds and hundreds of different denominations of paganism. I'm shaman, which is my denomination of paganism. The wife follows Fae. Um, there's a boatload of people out there that are witch, druid, asatru, um, draconic. Hell, I could go on and on. Most of them I can't even remember, though I've heard. Right. So the philosophy and the idea of pagan, just simply keep it simple, right? I had a teacher that used to always, he had up on his chalkboard. Yes, we used chalkboards back in the day. We didn't have dry erase boards like they have now. We actually used chalkboards. But up across the top of his chalkboard in multicolored chalk in a square was the word KISS, Kiss. And of course, all of us in high school, hell, what did we think? He was talking about Kiss the band, man. We thought this guy was cool. He listens to Kiss. He's even got it posted on the well. The first day of school, he has down the side of the board KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Really. Well, the first time I read it, it almost made me angry. You know, hell, I thought this guy was cool. I thought he listened to Kiss. You know, his philosophy was kiss it. Keep it simple, stupid. And I kind of adopted that philosophy. As some of you may know, I was a computer instructor for HUD, Urban Housing and Development, to help get people off of welfare for over 10 years down in Beaumont. I ran some really good classes, had some wonderful people come through. But I did the same essential thing. The very first day of class, I wrote KISS on the dry erase board. Yep, I had a dry erase board. I thought that was cool. Great big massive thing. It was, 6 foot long by 4 foot high. Big dry erase board. And up across the top in a square big enough for everybody to read, I put KISS, Kiss. And I usually left it there for the first day or two. And by the second or third day, I wrote down the side, keep it simple, stupid. And I find spirituality. I don't want to say religion, actually, right? But spirituality, such as in your different religious base core philosophies, whether it's Christianity, paganism, Muslim, Jewish, atheist, um, Buddhism, Taoism, all the other isms. Keep it simple. Yeah, Michelle. Keep it simple, stupid. Um, because spiritual philosophies or spiritual foundations is essentially really truly built on some very simple thoughts. Very simple thoughts. First one, vape more, smoke less. Anyway, couldn't help it. Had to. Right. My first thought, among many, when I was trying to figure out what religion I wanted to follow, what was I spiritually? Well, the first thought that came to mind was I need to figure out whether or not I'm Christian. Well, that then threw me into a complete and total tizzy of trying to figure out what Christianity or what being Christian really was. Not what the church would like you to believe, right? But what is the core? Where did it come from? Where did it begin? What the hell is it? What foundation was Christianity truly built on? Well, the first word in Christianity is Christ. Okay. So what truly is Christ to modern day Christians? So I did a little research on that. I'm not going to get into all the hullabaloo here. But I broke it down. Christ. What is Christ? Not what the preacher said Christ was, but what does history say Christ is? And we all know history comes from the phrase his story. So you gotta check all different variables there. You gotta check the popular sites, the non-popular sites, what the radicalists say, what the fundamentalists say, what the equalitarians say. So you got to take all of this. And then I said, well, okay. So being Christian, at its core, is believing that a single male God gave up his only son to forgive the sins of man. Okay, I get it. Well, the first thing I had to do was believe that a single male God impregnated a virgin. Well, I mean, there's stories of gods and goddesses coming down to earth, or gods, not goddesses, gods coming down to earth and impregnating humans, thereby giving birth to demigods. So, that methodology, that mythology goes back since the beginning. Okay. Logic. The logic of the mythology is there, I guess. And then I got to thinking, but why would any god allow his son to be crucified by a bunch of drunk ass Romans for the sins of man? And then I got to thinking, but it didn't do any good. These crazy ass humans are still running around out here, running amok, getting crazy, and just flat out getting stupid. But I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, the base core philosophy of Christianity is cool. I get it. It's a wonderful thought. But then you take a look at their own documentation, the history of that religion, the atrocities that that religion has brought upon fellow man. Not for me. So I stuck that in a bottle and I set it on a shelf, right? I pulled that entire thought process out, stuck it in a bottle and set it on a shelf. And I said, well, okay. I know what Jewish is. Jewish is a single belief in a single God, a single male God, nothing else. True monotheism. Single God only. Just one. And that's Jewish. Definitely not me. Definitely not my idea. Stick that in a bottle and put it on the shelf. Now we're going to look at pagan. What is pagan? Where did it come from? Who thought it up? Um, no one, really. No one person in history that I've been able to find is considered to be the father or whatever of paganism, because pagan has just always been there. The Romans came up with the word pagan to describe uneducated country folk. Well, that didn't last long, did it? Come to find out, most country folk are a hell of a lot better educated in life than most city folk. So, yeah, that didn't last long. But anyway, the Romans actually invented the word pagan. But the philosophy of what paganism stood for, by the very understanding of the country folk of the time that still believed in the multiple gods and goddesses, trickled back. So the philosophies of polytheism has always been, right? It's just simply always been. You you can't squash it out. There's too many people that still believe in polytheism. So you see, being pagan was relatively simple. Bang, I'm pagan. I believe in the possibility of a polytheistic foundation belief system. More than one or multiples, gods and our goddesses. Bang, you're pagan. So I remember thinking to myself back then, okay, I'm pagan. Now, what do I do with it? How does it work? I need someone to tell me how paganism works. What does it do? What do you do with it? Christians go to church. Muslims go to a mosque. What do you do with paganism? Where do you go? Of course, being a kid of the age, you're always raised God's house. You go to church. Okay. There's no pagan churches, or none that I could find back in the 90s. So the more I learned, the more I began to dream and fantasize, if you will, of a pagan church. And I would still, one day, like to have a circular building large enough to hold several hundred people, circular building, so that as it comes down into the center, you have the hole for the smoke to go up through up top, and you actually have a fire circle. And everyone sits around the fire circle. No one necessarily sits at a pew, or I'm sorry, at a podium with all of the pews sitting out there, and he or she is at the front of the row demanding attention. Now, if I'm leading a circle, I would sit in north, because I'm shaman and my philosophy bases in north. If someone whose philosophy bases in the east is leading circle, they would set up their eastern circle, and they would lead circle from the east. But it would be a circle, and my idea of a pagan church then and now is, though you need a figure or multiple figures to keep things relatively smooth, you don't really need any one person standing up there telling you, if you don't live this way, you're going to go to hell. Well, pagans don't believe in hell anyway, right? You don't need one person telling you the way you're living is wrong. Repent, be saved. No, that's not our job. And damn sure, as a pagan minister, that's not my job. My job as a pagan minister is to say, well, okay, I don't necessarily agree with the things that you're doing or the life that you're living, but it's your karma, you deal with it. And that generally sparks curiosity on their part, going, what are you talking about? So then you get into dialogue. You're not debating, you're not fighting, you're not arguing, you're not commanding, you're not beating someone over the head. You actually get into a dialogue of conversation of what's right, what's wrong, how it works, um, what you think should happen for you, right? So, as a dialogue, you begin to communicate, kind of like the video I showed last week with the two ladies that had completely, totally different um, political views. And rather than debating or fighting or arguing, they built dialogue. They communicated. They talked to each other about their differences. And like Cindy says, your body is your temple. Take care of your body. Take care of your body. Absolutely. Of course, we all know I take care of mine as I drink another Dr. Pepper and more coffee and eat more fatty foods of the Americans, if you will. Yeah. So understand paganistic philosophy is essentially being pagan. And as a pagan minister, we tend to do pagan ministry by stories, talking about things that we went through, things that we've seen others go through, to assist you, whoever you may be, in finding your way. Um, as being pagan, just pagan, not shaman, not witch, druid, fae, anything else, just being pagan should theoretically open you up to an entire cosmos of thoughts, philosophies, possible ideas. Being pagan should open you up to a whole world, like I said, cosmos of thoughts, ideas, possibilities. You know, it becomes it becomes so much not about right and wrong, but it becomes more about what's right for you. Now, in retrospect, again, I might look at you a little strange if you say, right, well, if paganism is so open minded, then I'm going to choose that toothpick as my god. Okay, whatever. But then I set out to explain to people pagans typically don't have any particular thing as a god or goddess. Typically they don't. Now, there was the ancient belief system where the sacred cow was what they followed. Um, Middle Eastern countries find cattle sacred. So you see cattle roaming the streets with their fellow humans. Cattle are treated, unfortunately, unfortunately, cattle are treated better than their wives or their women are. I find that very disheartening, but it is what it is. And I accept their right as a human to have their belief system, even though I don't agree with it. So you see where I'm going here with being pagan. The core of being pagan should open your mind, make you a little more acceptive of others. Pagans at the core are not discriminatory. Pagans at the core are not bigoted in any way because we don't see skin color, right? Whether you're black, white, brown, whatever, no matter what geographic area you come from the planet, you're still human. Now there are certain nuances that make you different. Your personality, how you were raised, where you're from, like your geographic location, where you're from. It makes you who you are. Your decisions, your choices make you who you are. So I could have very simply started out the topic with being pagan is being acceptive, being honorable, being open minded, and just simply trying to be a good person. And I could have ended it right there. I could have said, oop, into church, all done. That's being pagan. The rest of it, you have to figure out for yourself. And yesterday, we actually already covered that. The original pagan word was developed by the Romans. That meant for country dweller or country folk. Also meaning uneducated is what's in the Roman writing. The pagan term later became to mean the believer or the understanding of multiple gods and or the acceptance of multiple gods and or goddesses. And once that word was put into understanding of the meaning, then it went retrograde all the way back to the beginning of time, because the beginning of time and the beginning of humans were polytheistic. Polytheistic meaning multiples, more than one. And that does bring up a good point. The definition of words change throughout history. What they mean, the idea of the meaning of pagan, of what it means. Now, as always, when I like to have a definition, I like to go to Webster. Merriam-Webster.com. Type in the word pagan. And here you go. This is Merriam-Webster's globally accepted dictionary. This is Merriam-Webster's definition of pagan. Now that may be a little hard to read. I'm going to kind of bring it in for you here. Right. Heathen. Heathen, also and especially meaning a follower of a polytheistic religion, as in ancient Rome, blah 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 blah, further on back. And for some reason, this neo-pagan thing describes witches, druids, goddess worshippers and other pagans in America today? Well, by definition, folks, by definition, we are all neo pagan. We are all neo pagan. Every one of us is neo pagan. I've yet to meet anyone, truly, I've yet to meet anyone who truly 100% lives as the ancestors did. Now, if you have and they're open for a meet and greet, let me know. And I'll tell you why. Because if you come across a pagan that is truly living as the ancients did, they're not going to have electricity. They're not going to have an automobile. They're damn sure not going to have a computer. So you're not going to meet them online. I mean, a fact is a fact. If you're using modern day equipment to perpetuate, practice, meet people, and be who you are within your pagan philosophy, you are by definition a New Age pagan. There it is. It is what it is. And if you truly are a follower of the ancient philosophies of paganism, and you truly follow what the ancients believed as paganism, you're not going to have a computer or a source of electricity or a source of communication outside of your own word of mouth. Because to truly live as the truly ancient pagans, you're completely self-supportive. I've had this wonderful conversation and dialogue with people on the internet that say, I follow the ancient pagans. I live as they did. I believe as they did. I do what they did. And I come back with, how the hell are you on the internet? But you're on the internet. That means you have electricity. That means you have a computer. And probably a cell phone. And all kinds of other electronics. Well, yeah, I do. And that makes you a neo-pagan. Do you kill your own food? No. Do you grow all of your own vegetables? No. Where do you get your groceries? Walmart. Cha-ching! You're not following the ancient pagan belief system. And they sit there and go, well, then they want to fight because you caught them. And I'm like, chill. It is what it is. Christians today are neo-Christians. They're New Age Christians. We're a part of our environment, folks. Come on. I got a house with central air and central heat. I got a computer. Well, I got a couple of computers sitting here with monitors spanned everywhere. I'm sitting here talking to you over a digital medium. Right? Come on. There's nothing wrong with being the term neo-pagan. We're all neo-pagan. If we were old age pagan, well, I'm old by definition, but that's beside the point. If we were all living the true ancients, doesn't necessarily actually mean we would live in a cave or a hut, although that would create some pretty cool ambiance, I think. But if we truly lived as the ancients, we would have no need for the electrical world, the electronic or the digital world. We'd have no need for electricity, air conditioned central heat. We would hunt and eat what we hunted. We would grow our own vegetables and potatoes and what have you. We would truly, completely live off the land. So, it's okay to be referred to as neo pagan. It really is. So, being pagan is not to be, Camille said, I like my AC. I totally agree, especially back here in the office. Love this fan. Yeah, circulates air. Where was I going? I got sidetracked. Oh, to be pagan is not to be Christian pagan. Because you have to accept the definition of Christian. You have to accept the definition of pagan. You have to accept the definition of atheist. You have to accept the definition of Jewish. And you have to say, okay, I concur. If I believe in God and Goddess and Jesus, you're not Christian. I'll say that again in case you didn't catch it and you don't know how to hit replay. If you believe in God and Goddess, and Jesus, you're not Christian. Jesus was a man that walked the earth. While pagans forever have taken men or human beings and put them in deity statues. You know, the idea that a human being could be God or goddess like has always been, will always be, I'm sure. But to to be Christian is single God, Son crucified to save man. Stops right there. Christianity, Christian, God, Jesus, save man, also known as the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Triangle, triad. Which, if you think about it, by definition, is also pagan. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But anyway, that's a topic for another debate or dialogue or what have you. So, I really think we've just about beat the topic to pieces. There's not a whole lot more we can say. Cindy says drum. Absolutely. Drum. Love drum. I know that most everybody that was watching earlier has buggered off to go do other things, or their internet service provider kicked them off, or they drop cell phone signal, whatever happens. People get busy. I'm cool with that. So, being pagan. The only thing I've ever really truly asked people to do is walk the talk. Be who you say you are. Yes, that too. Be who you say you are. Live as good a life as you can, as honorable as you can. We're humans, we're fallible. Not a single damn one of us is perfect. Whether you're practicing on being a Christian, or whether you're practicing on being a pagan, or whether you're practicing on being an atheist and not believing anything, or a Jew or a Muslim, be who you say you are. Thank you, Jerry. Walk the talk. And always remember that no matter how old you are, no matter how much you think you know, you always, always have an opportunity to learn and experience more in life. Wishing blessings to you and yours. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week here on Open Pagan Church.